Leon, could you describe your life journey in 3 words? And for the third word, can you tell me why you've used that word?
My life journey in 3 words. Wow. I mean, that was one. Exactly that. Wow. 3 words. I would say. I would say courageous. I would say spirit. I would guess probably inspirational,
Okay.
confident.
And and actually, why did you say inspirational as your third word?
I would say inspirational is my third word because it's not the first thing that springs to my mind. Others may see my life journey as inspirational, but sometimes I don't realize how much my life has been that. So it's in there confidently, but I don't sometimes read. I sometimes have to go back over my life and think. Sometimes I'm doing that, and I'm quite taken back sometimes what I've done and the things I've been through and so forth. So yeah, I'd put it in there in the last for the last word, just to kind of round everything up, really.
Mm. And you're like childhood. I mean, I would actually love to know your most vivid memory, and with that memory,
Hmm.
has that served you well in your adulthood?
Oh, for sure. There's been good and bad memories, but if we're gonna go um, from a good memory point of view, there's been a few things in those memories where I've definitely taken something from these little moments and made me. So, having my dad in the boxing world and my uncle Duke in the boxing world, seeing how a boxer would get up every day, train, the commitment around it, the desire, the determination. I feel definitely molded me into me wanting to become something. I definitely think the Rocky films had a massive impact in my life, just because that's what I grew up on. Pele, Ian Wright, people like that with big personalities, and Ian Wright became a mentor in my football career. Anyway, which is just would be quite surreal for me, um, being that I was a kid. And when you talk about memory, I was at Sellers Park when there weren't no sort of seats as such, and I was watching him and Mark Bright, um, and John Solarco, Jeff Thomas, like Andy Gray, like that, all players that are just playing. Gareth Southgate, even then back then, and I was watching these guys, and I must have been about 12 years old, and I remember watching and visualizing and just seeing the way Wrighty was so charismatic and just had this kind of street element to him, but brought the park football to Sellers Park. And I just loved that kind of rhythm of what he was doing. But I kind of had that in me, and it's just something I took to. But I just said to myself, like, I'd love to be here one day and do what they're doing. I'd love to do that. And that was about I was about 12, 13 years old. Little did I know, within the best part of sort of 2, 3 years later, 3 years later, that I would be at Crystal Palace fighting for my life on the trial to become what they have now as a scholarship. Um, and, when I got that YTS contract, which was, youth development scheme contract back then, which is a scholarship of today's football. And I just, got a 2 year scholarship, and it was like my dreams were just coming through just through visualization. and I would say a certain DNA that I think was required from what I was built from, but no one ever handed me nothing. So as much as I had the DNA, even if you got that DNA and you're the son of, or you're the, you know what I mean, there's still choices that you have to make. There's still stuff that you have to do for yourself to get into the road of success, to understand the journey, to understand what you have to go through, to understand the failures, to understand, you know, how you get off the floor, how you come back, and then you'll see what the success does once you've been through those circumstances, and you've got a greater understanding on the development of why, first and foremost, why you got there and what it took to actually get to a point of seeing one of your dreams come true. Yes, some people say luck or whatever it is. I personally believe that, you know, if it's meant for you, it will be for you. I don't really put that down to luck as such, but I know that I put in the work and showed the most desire, the most, I guess, courageous moments in my life to succeed as a footballer and becoming professional at the age of 17 years old at Crystal Palace. Again, you know, I can remember playing the park football and just practicing overhead kicks in my garden after watching Escape to Victory, watching Pele, you know, constantly just practicing. My dad always reminds me of this. He said, like, Champ, I remember when you used to go in the garden, you know, every day. You used to throw the ball up in the air and you used to practice this overhead. He didn't really have to say it, but this overhead thing you used to do. I said, it's the Pele kick. He says, yeah, I used to see you do that all the time. He's always practicing. I said, yeah. And then the neighbours also, when I actually did make and break through into Crystal Palace, you know, I had like neighbours that used to keep an eye on me because I used to go out on the road and I just you know, do kick ups and do things, and across the road were Palace fans. So when I actually made my debut, they came and reminded me of the story that they used to see me all the time practicing with the ball, and they was just like, "Oh, like who's this kid? Like, well, he's always practicing." Da da da. And again, little did they know that I would be, you know, become a Crystal Palace football player. So those types of memories are precious in itself, because there could have been many other routes I could have taken. And I say this with confidence as well, because when you are a child, but you may have so much uh, behind you, you know, a successful family, a successful dad, there's success in your family. People can look at it as, okay, now what are you going to do? So where's the, you know, there's pressure there before you've even done anything. I only really understood this when I had my own children and they saw my success and, you know, felt like they have to live up to trying to be someone too. So I understood it a little bit better. But when you are going through it and things happen in life, when you're as a child, you don't understand about your mum and dad, you know, breaking up. You don't understand about divorce. You don't understand about heartbreak and all these types of things that as a child we may go through. You don't understand about your circle, your inner circle, your, you know, the good friends and maybe the bad friends that actually don't really want you to go on as to be successful, because those types of friends want to actually do what you're doing but don't have the capability, don't have the desire, don't have the willpower, don't have the discipline to go on and do what you are actually doing. But some would rather you just kind of not do as well, because then there's that kind of an envious aspect, because you're achieving what they can't. So therefore, there's an envious aspect in that. So you have to be careful of that. But when you're a child, you don't maybe understand that. But one thing I did identify is I had some good people around me, but I had some bad people around me. But in all fairness to me, my friends that were bad at the time didn't really try and sort of suck me into their life. they kind of laugh about it today,
Mhm.
but they kind of just knew that, you know, there was times where, you know, if they were smoking this and smoking that and, you know, this, that, and the other, I think the only time they could probably get me out is if it was girls involved. That's it.
That's always the way. That's always
That
the way.
was literally my, you know, my kryptonite. So other than those things, like I was very straight up and focused on, no, I need to do this. Like I can't have that drink today. I can't do this today. Blah blah. Or furthermore, I've got to kind of pull away from you guys a bit, but I love you. And they were just like, we love you back. Go and do your thing. There, that's your boys. When you say, you know what, love you back, go and do your thing, man.
Yeah.
We can't do what you do, but we want you to do what you want to do, and go and do it. And that's the important factor in that. But it could have gone horribly wrong. There's like I say, it's all about choices, and some, when you're at that age, some of us don't get that right.
Yeah.
And that's why you see so many talented footballers fall at the wayside, because it's either been influenced and, you know, got the wrong influence around them, or, you know, they just stop. That hunger stops. And when it does really, really get hard, and you have to really grit your teeth, and you have to bite down on that gum shield, if you have one in, you have to really understand that that's where you have to go through those things. You have to take, and some people just don't have it in them. Don't have it in them to go through the pain, the failures, the being told. I got declined by about 18 clubs before Crystal Palace. Every single club declined me for a trial, just for a trial. Every club. And then, like I say, perseverance, you know, continuing to believe in myself. And don't get me wrong, there's days where I struggled, but, you know, you kept going, you keep going, and the perseverance sees you through.
You've been very open regarding your kind of struggles in and out of football. And I was kind of listening to a conversation that you had where you described mental health as a kind of Pinocchio nose.
Correct.
Can you elaborate on what you mean by that?
Yeah, I mean, when I mention Pinocchio's nose, to break it down, it's a bit of a motto that I use, and anyone that's watched the film, if you haven't, you know, shame, but hopefully you have. It's a simple question I ask, and then I kind of flip into the reasons to why I asked the question. So if I ask you now, what happened to Pinocchio when he lied?
His nose grew.
Okay, so you could visually see his nose growing. You could see that. If I flip it over now and say, what can you see if someone is suffering from depression? What can you visually see, really?
No, nothing. Can't see nothing.
It's difficult.
You can't see anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my point is with that is that there is no Pinocchio's nose for. I use depression because that's the education I've been able to put myself in. But I'd use depression and anxiety in many forms. But depression is my main. That was my main fight. So that's why I focus on that particular mental health illness more so, because I know where it's took me in my journey. But there's over best part of 200 types of mental, you know, health illnesses. So that's just, you know, across the border. But depression is a key sort of message in terms of, like, you can't really identify if someone is really suffering from depression. And I say that again confidently because I became a great actor. And I think a lot of us as men, whether that's in front of our peers, family, wives, whatever it is, I think a lot of us do put on a very good act if we're actually feeling in a way of despair and isolation and in a dark place. I think we hide that very well. And that's why I identified the Pinocchio's nose, because unless we can see actual visual signs and tells of that particular person struggling, it'd be hard to really identify. So that's the reason why that came into play.
You spoke about your time at Charlton and the kind of injuries that like you were that you were getting that contributed to lack of confidence and your depression. And again, please kind of correct me if I'm wrong. And you like said that you was like in a room, probably in the physio's room, and you burst into tears, and there were people walking past and whatnot. I mean, was there anyone at that particular moment in time that you felt you could speak to, or
No. No. So it's a story that I do actually use when I'm speaking. I think the main highlight for me of that experience was, I'm a grown man, but I'm obviously broken right now because I've just torn my hamstring at that particular time. I've had a horrendous time with injuries, just trying to get back playing. So my soul's just kind of depleting by the minute. But now I kind of gave up slightly in front of everyone because I just broke down. The interesting thing about that is, and this is what I talk about, where within society, sometimes when we see a grown man breaking down and crying, the most interesting thing about that situation is because although people were walking past and saw that, it was too uncomfortable for them to come and ask the question. It was too uncomfortable. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
Because when you look at it, no one came in and asked, Lee, you all right? They just thought, oh, just leave him be. But what they didn't actually know is actually, while I'm doing that at that particular moment, I'm contemplating literally, like, my soul is kind of disappeared for a little while. So therefore my mind is not mine anymore. And my mind broke down in a way where I can't even explain that pain of just not wanting to be here anymore, over your mind just not being your own because of the pain that you're feeling, and you just want that pain to go away. You don't want to feel that pain no more. Do you see what I mean? Some see it as selfish. Some see it as like, oh, what selfish? Your mind's not yours anymore. So therefore, to even identify it as selfish, your mind it's gone somewhere else. So you don't even have that willpower anymore. It doesn't come down to being selfish. It comes down to you actually feeling like, I can't feel like this anymore. I'm sick of being unhappy. I'm sick of being sad. I'm sick of people asking me if I'm all right. I'm sick of it. I'm sick of everything. So therefore, that's why people get into that vulnerable place of not wanting to be. And then, like I say, I always say, because I've got 5 children, so they are my power, and they give me they give me a different purpose and understanding. But thankfully, I'm here to show them how to fight back. I'm here to show them when life does hit you in a way, you can fight back from it. You can get back from it. And they've seen me fall. They've seen me rise. They've seen me fall. They've seen me rise again. There's a certain pattern there, and they know the capabilities in terms of their own lives. When they're going into their own lives, they understand heartbreak. They understand circumstances changing in life, and it all can psychologically get a lot for us. But yeah, it's not a place I wish on anyone, but it's a place that I wish people would understand more so in the current society that we're in. I still think we have a lot of ignorant people in the world who don't really get it, don't really care to get it, and just become very ignorant in itself to really even understand what someone may be actually going through. And it's as simple as that, because sometimes you can say you can have children and beautiful wife or husband. You can have a great setup from the outside. Your setup could be amazing, But if you lose your mind and you lose yourself, then you need help. You need help to try and understand what's going on. But you need to pull through the best way you can.
And when you kind of talk about, your mind is not yours, and when you were at rock bottom, you kind
Sorry,
of
at where?
sorry, and when let's you was at rock
Oh, rock bottom. Yeah.
you literally attempted to end your life, but you like say that you made one phone call,
Mm,
and that phone call was to your dad.
mm,
How like did you know at that present moment
mm,
what you needed to do, and was your dad in your
mm,
mind
of
when you
course.
was going through that?
No, I think once I had done what I'd done, which I can't repeat how I done it because of the copycat effect and to protect that safeguarding wise. But because I'd done what I'd done, there was no I kind of done it. And now I started thinking. So it's kind of already too late in terms of what I did because it's gone in. But now my fight starts. Actually, let me just call my dad in here because this is good. Let me call my dad and just tell him what I've done. Do you see what I mean? It could have been far, far away for all I know. Luckily and God willing, he was nothing. He was best part of 15 minutes away. Um, something that was life changing. What it did to myself and my family was again very just life changing. But it was one of them where it wasn't my time, and it's not a feel sorry for me story why this story gets told. It's really to just try and say like I get it, but I also know how to fight back. Hence why you see everything I do in terms of my branding and my fight it message is truly testament of my life. That's the true testament of everything, and I believe that you can fight it. It might take a few times, it might take a few falls, but you'll find a way. And I'm just able to find a way, and that's the reality of that. It's never easy, but when I hear my dad, and there's a lot of guilt that I've held for a number of years, a lot of guilt in even when I him when my children can see these types of things that has happened in my life. There's been a lot of guilt that's gripped me. I can't imagine what my dad felt when he got that call, because I can only, as a dad now, imagine what if one of my children was in that position, what it would be like. I've had a situation which I can't go into through my own protection and my family, but that broke my heart. But I blamed myself a lot. So there's swings and roundabouts, and there's so much. It's such a deepness to it. It's a very dark place, a very dark place. But I'm here, man. I'm here, and I'm doing my best every day, trying every day just to. You can see how busy I am. I mean, like I'll try and be as active as I can. I try and be, a rock for my children, and trying just to be the best man I can be. Do I get it right all the time? No, I don't. I don't get it right all the time still to this day. 45 in a few weeks. It's not easy for me. But we keep pushing, we keep trying. I've got an amazing circle. I've got great friends who constantly, we constantly speak. Always, I got the type of friends that will go out their way and help you with things, help you with trying to develop you, like trying to develop yourself. Do you see what I mean? Unselfish it goes a long way. When you got friends like that in your life and your circle's tight like that, it's beautiful to have that, and that's something I'm grateful for. But most of all, although the mistakes, when I say mistakes, the choices that I've made in life, I would say most of all, my biggest thanks is to God. I have to show gratitude towards God and thank Jesus every day, because there's a certain strength that I always lean to. I'm not religious, but there's a certain power within my heart, and it leans towards that. And there's just certain scriptures where I just feel like, it really hits home. And I just keep trying every day. It's all about just constantly pushing and trying. God willing, anyway.
Love that. And when was the last time that you had a proper belly laugh? And also, as well, I'd love to know a little bit in terms of like your boxing as well, and literally how has boxing transformed your journey thus far?
Oh yeah, for sure. Oh, my last belly laugh. I mean, I'm always laughing, to be honest.
but like a proper belly laugh where it's like,
Yeah, I'm always laughing. What was my last sort of belly laugh? What was my last sort of belly laugh? I can't remember. I can't remember. What was that? A what? No, that's not. I wasn't laughing. My last belly. I'll have to come back to you on that one, because I can't remember the last proper belly laugh. Probably it might have been with my cousin Damien. We laughed about something real hard, and you just constantly can't breathe laugh. Like it was kind of that. Do you know what I mean? Like proper. Yeah, the way we laugh is like becomes loud and loud. Like, we're here. Do you know what I mean?
100%.
Proud. Boxing. I'm a boxer turned footballer. Really, that's what people really don't only probably clock on now. But I was really a boxer turned footballer. So boxing's been in my life since best part of 7-8 years old. And it's been all the way through. Even when I was playing, I was still in the gym doing bits and bobs and, learn how to sort of fight and look after myself. And then boxing came into my life at, again, another delicate place in life where, you go through divorce, you go for another fuck up, and, you find yourself once upon a time playing Premiership, playing in the Premier League, I'll say Premiership back then. And then your life fast forwards, and this can happen to anyone, whether you're a banker, whether you're a lawyer, whatever it is success that is going on in your life, you can fast forward, because life circumstances can change your whole life and tip it upside down in a heartbeat. You have to look at people like Mike Tyson and people like that who've earned millions and millions of pounds, so never it really comes down to money as such. But boxing came into my life because it was the only thing I knew how to do, that was in my blood. Being I was 35 years old at the time, it was the only thing I had left to fight back. I had to fight back. This is the time where I had to fight back, literally, purposely, to go and do that and jump in the ring. It wasn't so much to go and win everything, because I knew time was on my side. Never had amateur fight, never had no fights. Jumped into professional boxing ring at 35 years old. You know what? Won an international masters title, and I got to elite levels in itself in terms of English title, Southern area title, fighting people that have been fighting all their life, way more experienced than me. But, when you're sort of 38, 39 years old and you're fighting people that sort of 40 fights in, 42 fights in to your 10, experience comes into play, and experience is the best teacher. And experience definitely taught me a lot about myself, taught me a lot about my character, but also taught me that sometimes even when you lose, you really win.
So true.
That's in life in general. Sometimes when you actually lose, you actually win and it can come in many forms. Your wife or husband could leave you tomorrow for whatever reason, right? But sometimes it actually works out for the best. You just don't know it yet because you're going through pain. You flip that to sport, it's the same thing. So sometimes it can work out for the best. We just got to take the loss in the best way that God willing, to whatever shaped us. We don't really know what's written for us, but when you're trying to do the right things and you're trying to be the best you can be, I always feel like you've got a head start in what you're trying to achieve. I think when you try and you understand yourself more, you keep educating yourself, because I never stop learning. I always learn off someone. When you keep educating yourself, I think knowledge gives you a greater power in itself anyway. And when you're coming from the right place, you can't go wrong. That's for me.
Yeah. And your autobiography, My Fight with Life, where can people purchase this? And
It's actually no more copies left. It's back in 2012 that was published. If you go onto Amazon, you might pick up a copy from somewhere that someone that's read it and flipped it on and sold it, and there's probably still a signature in there from me.
Okay, well, I'm going
You
to
can
look.
go on if you go on Amazon. There might be a few flying about. Sometimes people just kind of like sell them on or whatever.
I'm going to literally put it out there. So when are we going to get part 2?
I actually started writing with someone to do a part 2, and there's a potential that I could maybe do something, but I'll be totally honest, it's just the time for me. I just don't have the time, because there's so much that's happened since that first book. It's a completely whole different story, more ups and downs, more success, more trauma. It's another deep. But what it does have is education. What it does have is even more kind of, I guess, things that can help someone else. Which is, I'd say, the first one, wasn't so much education around it. The first one was very, very sad. Some parts were bitter. Some parts were angry. Some parts were just trying to find my way in that book. Very honest. It was very honest, but if I'm to write the book now, you're gonna see a whole different chapter. Do you know what I mean? So that's what I do know. But obviously, I've got this big documentary. That's where we've got a Chicago screening in September. So the US tour starts in September, which I'm actually sorry. What am I talking about? May 17th is my birthday. So May 17th, we are screening in Chicago. Imagine that, which is quite a big deal. And yeah, we've got kind of like an educational tour. So we're doing a load of universities, showing the film in a load of universities all over the US, and still trying to get it picked up and get it into a bigger platform for the UK to pick up on it and show the love. Unfortunately, in the UK, they're not as loving, they're not as giving, and that's the most disturbing thing for me through all of this, trying to put out something that is, when you see the film, you're going to be like, wow, like I get it. You know, there's so many amazing people in it, speaking from their heart, speaking truth, speaking trauma, speaking, you know, going through certain things in life. But it's like, it's a struggle. It's a struggle. But I believe, like I said, everything's about timing. It's about God's timing, not my timing. And I believe that when it is time to present itself, it will present itself in such a big way that it becomes bigger than the no's that said no to me. Because I remember them all. I remember all the platforms that have said no to me. But when I do finally get there, yeah, I'll be looking forward to that bit.
It's amazing. Honestly, Leon, thank you so much for like talking to me. And I like remember you like playing, and you was kind of like Drogba before Drogba, strong, powerful, you know, strong.
I've never Drogba. No,
this,
I mean, I was very, I was deceivingly strong.
You listen. I mean, boy, like, you know, you had that kind of that kind of on, you know, like that kind of on board of arrogance where it's like, you know what,
Very much
if
so,
it's like my day, trust me, there's that defender
See, if
that
you
can actually
went
handle
on,
the end.
yeah, you've looked into something. You've looked into me deeply there, because not a lot of people understand. But what you just said there, if I'm in the mood, any defender who would cut, probably apart from Marcel Desailly when I was a kid, but most defenders know that they're in for a game, because they just know what I'm about.
Yeah.
It's like, and that's where it's always been. So to identify that, it's good.
Thank you, Leon. Thank you like so much for like coming onto the platform, and yeah,
No
I just
problem.
kind of wish you more like blessings and positivity.
No, thank you. So thanks for inviting me on this. It's been a pleasure, and yeah, I look forward to putting it out there for yourself.